But as we've reached the point, as we do.
Oh, God, not again.
It's been a few weeks.
I know. I'm a little rusty here, buddy.
You and Russell Wilson.
Calm down.
Rusty is dusty. He played like crap. Like crap.
Where are you, Kyle? Bastard.
We do miss Kyle dancing. But no bottom fives. No bottom fives on the ranking anymore. Those teams are dead. We don't have to make fun of them anymore.
Giants are 37th.
Bye Jaguars. Bye Titans.
Bye. Pour one out for those teams. They are dead and gone. So of course this week, looking at the top 14 in the NFL, the 14 teams that have qualified for the postseason. EJ, give us your 14 from 14 to 1.
All right, so 14 to 1. Here we go. Number 14, the Texans. Number 13, the Buccaneers. 12, Broncos. 11, Steelers. 10, Packers. 9, Commandos. 8, Rams. 7, Chargers. 6, Vikings. 5, Eagles. 4, Bills. 3, Ravens. 2, Lions. 1, Chiefs.
All right, so before we I have the rest of our picks. I'll pull them up in a minute. Let's start on the 8 to 14 side. Any
pluck away?
Any thoughts on EJ's 8 to 14?
Pluck away, Michael.
How is Krusty, Dusty, Rusty, and Bo Nix ahead of the Buccaneers?
Honestly, I don't make a great case for that. I
mean, I could probably make.
I mean, the only thing I guess the one thing I will agree with you on is the fact that Steelers have the harder matchup between them. Yeah, I guess your point there, because Tampa has the easier matchup of the 3 teams going into the weekend.
I'm saying I'm not looking at the matchups.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the roster.
Look at the roster and
right.
Because I have the Texans at 13. I have the Broncos at 14 just because rookie quarterback that hasn't looked good the last 3 weeks of the regular season. I get it. He put up a shit ton of points against me, you, Sean, and Jim playing in the secondary, backing up the Kansas City Chiefs this past week. But I mean, didn't look good against Cincinnati. Looked okay the week before. I mean, at this point, Baker Mayfield will at least sling the football. The running game with Bucky Irving, I trust more than I do.
Well, I will say Baker did not look great this week.
No, not at all. Not at all.
When push came to shove, he picked up some key first downs, but man, he struggled against the Saints.
I mean, I'll say this: I do have the Steelers run above the Bucks in my list, but I have the Steelers and the Bucks higher than EJ does, for the record. Because I mean, like, here's the thing: like with the Steelers, like if like George Pickens decides not to be a douchebag and the defense plays better and Russell Wilson doesn't make bad mistakes, the Steelers have a good team.
Of course,
it's just they haven't been playing like.
Substantial list though. That was 3-4 things.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Sean on that one. It's if this, and this go right, they could be the 7th best team in the NFL.
I mean, they were there a month ago.
They have a great defense. The Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, me having them higher is more about the teams that I have behind.
But. You know what? Number 11, TJ Watt. I mean, really, that's what
I think.
I have the Steelers lower than EJ. I have them lower.
Who? I have the Steelers. I have the Steelers at 11. I have.
Okay.
I have Tampa higher. I have Tampa higher.
Yeah,
I have Tampa in my top 8. So
that's... no, Mike. Honestly, I probably look in hindsight. I might switch 12 or 13. Honestly, in hindsight.
No, I mean that's fine. I'm just saying Bo Nix hasn't looked great. The running game there is not as refined as what Tampa Bay is going to put out there. From a defensive perspective, I think those teams are comparable. I think they're pretty average on where they stand with each other. It's just I don't honestly, the way that Pittsburgh's been playing, I don't know how you have them. I mean, I have them at 11, and it was simply because I couldn't find a way to put the Broncos, Texans, or Rams ahead of them.
Right. Yeah, and not only that, for me, I guess to the Bucs more than anything else, divisional optics aside in that game against the Saints, that was a fucking grind.
Am I crazy in remembering that EJ was like been on the Packers wagon all year?
We went over that early in the show.
Yes,
10
he's got him sitting at 10th best.
Yeah, we went over the show. I
do not like high. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
I mean, I have them at 9, but
I have them quite high, and it just I couldn't even tell you why. I have two big switches when my list shows up that I gotta make.
All right.
I don't like when I see Green Bay
I submitted
coming to
them
the
too early,
playoffs. That's why I'm lower.
I guess my other question is
Chargers would be my question on this one. Is
what we're not there yet though. We're not there yet on the on that side of the bracket.
No, yeah. I mean, I don't have anything else.
14. I like those.
I'll say I don't have anything else on the right side, Mike.
Okay. Okay.
No, I think 8 through 14 you could kind of rank them however you want.
Yeah,
that's kind of a tier.
Switch some pieces here or there, and I think you're okay.
Right after
it's a new bottom 5.
Like where right after number 7, and I have the same 7 teams in my top 7. That's where I drew the line. Like it's the top 7 and the bottom 7, really. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's look at the left side. Sean, you were going to make a point about the chart.
Oh, I was just curious what if you guys all have them in the 7, maybe it's something anyone can answer is where, because I don't have the Commanders in my top 7, but I do have the Packers in. I thought kind of that middle, like after the Vikings, where it's like Chargers, Rams, Commanders, Packers. Of those 4, why were the Chargers like the cream of that 4?
I have the Chargers at 7. I have the Packers at 9, and it's simply because of the loss of Christian Watson and the unknown if Jordan Love's hand is actually going to get feeling back to it. Mm-hmm. I think I have some just concerns about them from a health perspective that I technically really don't have about the Chargers right now.
Which is wild to say, by the way.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
You look at the last couple of years.
That team's walked and crawled to the finish line, and randomly this year it's not as bad from the injury perspective. I think I have Green Bay a little bit lower simply because of I don't necessarily know that Jordan Love is going to play in this football game.
Yeah. I mean, I have the Packers much lower. You'll see it when I put it up, but I have the Chargers at 7, and I have them there because they're healthy. They're clicking on both sides of the ball. And 2 things that are going to help determine success in the postseason, and that's coaching and defense. And the Chargers really kind of have that solid on both fronts. So I'm not sitting here saying they're going to be a Super Bowl contender, but I think they are a dangerous team. In the AFC, even playing against teams like Kansas City, who they've played close twice this year.
Absolutely, as I said, dark horse of the AFC right there.
Yeah, so there's danger. So I think that they have a lot of potential, like the danger potential for other teams here.
Well, I would agree. I think if you guys are right, I think that's a very bold step. If you guys are right that the Chargers are sitting up here approaching the Vikings, Eagles, Bills territory, that they should be very dangerous in the AFC, because when I was building the bottom half, I started being concerned with my list because it was just AFC.
Right.
And I was like, well, these are clearly the worst teams. I'm like, there's no NFC teams in this list. And I had to kind of fight to find the cream of the AFC and kind of throw them in there. We spent so long going Chiefs for the past few years, and Bills, and maybe even throw the Ravens in there. These other teams in the playoffs in the AFC aren't quite the not quite the disparity in the AFC that we have in the NFC. So that was interesting. But I think you're right.
You missed it earlier too. I said the Chargers are the team in the AFC bracket that can fuck shit up. They're my fuck shit up team of this bracket that they can. They're going to be Houston this weekend. Look.
Well, there goes the Chargers' hopes.
Say that. And then they're going to likely draw Kansas City in the second round of playoffs, and there's familiarity there. Okay, so
and like we said earlier in the year, the Chargers game was a game a lot of us had circled as a potential Chiefs loss, because I think the Chargers and Harbaugh built this team to compete with Kansas City.
Right.
But they had just lost J.K. Dobbins.
Correct.
They had some injuries on defense, and some of us were concerned we didn't quite pull that trigger, and it turned out rightly so. But
they recovered.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'll be a fun matchup in the second round.
I mean, the Chiefs have beaten the Chargers by a total of 9 points this year.
Yeah, well, they've beaten the whole league by a total of 12 points. So
right, that's true. Here I'll pull up the full list. And here's where mine is, and I know we were off for a couple of weeks, but my top 5 have not changed since the last time we were together.
Okay.
Lions,
neither
Bills,
is mine.
Yeah, Lions, Bills, Chiefs, Eagles. Sans a Chiefs second squad that lost this past weekend. those top 5 teams, the Ravens at 5, those teams haven't lost. So they're not moving. No, you're locked in there. Part of me thinks the Ravens could be higher, but I'm not going to punish the other teams around them when they're winning as well.
Sorry, I did make
Yeah,
one
and
change. I moved the Eagles up to 4 and the Vikings down to 5 after that performance this week against the Lions. But the 5 has been locked in.
My list, the only edit that I had after sending it was I was looking, and I had the Bills are, to me, felt like I was looking at statistics and I was looking at the last few weeks, and I don't like the Bills defense as much as I used to. And Josh Allen has it's felt dominant, but when I really look at his numbers, despite a lack of turnovers, it's not quite as dominant as I thought it was. And I don't know. They have home games for a while, so that helps. But I had them at like the top of tier 2. I felt like I had my top 3. They were locked in. I do feel like I wanted to bump the Lions to 3 for just argument's sake, and that's kind of why I went with the run I did in the last segment. Is I like the Chiefs and the Eagles here from a roster perspective too. But those 3 to me are interchangeable.
Let me ask Mike a question.
Yeah,
Buffalo at 1. Mike, sell me on that.
Yeah, what do you like about Buffalo?
They score. They play good defense. I don't know. They don't turn the football over. They do things in the playoffs that you have to do to win playoff games. I'm sorry. At this point, the Kansas City Chiefs, they don't do anything for me. I trust Buffalo and Josh Allen more than I do anybody on that Chiefs offense not named Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you tell me they have Hollywood Brown. Cool. That guy's played 4 snaps. You tell me they have the shell of DeAndre Hopkins. That's cool. That guy didn't really play that well when he got traded from Tennessee. They're getting production out of Khalil Shakir. They're getting production out of all of the running backs that they're putting out on the field. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have to win bad football games. And if there's a team that I think is built to win a bad football game, it's the Bills. And
to your credit too, also they beat your number 2 and number 3 also this year. So that play.
Yeah, I mean, I also look at it. I mean, personally, I have the team that I actually picked in the last segment in the AFC is number 6, and that's more shocking, I think, than the team that I have at number 1 personally. And the reason why is because I think when you look at Baltimore, if they come out and do what I said they're going to do against Pittsburgh, I don't know that Buffalo can keep up with them. But going into the playoffs, I trust Buffalo to win a bad football game. A 13-10 game where Josh Allen has 45 carries and James Cook has 40 carries himself, and they hold the ball for basically the entire second half. That team's built to do that. Some of these other teams that are going to win with run games and defenses are not in this playoff.
Yeah. No, I
don't hate the Bills at 1, by the way.
No, no, people didn't step past the fence on this argument, but I like how you sold that. That's I can agree more. I'm looking at the rest of this list.
I was gonna say, what did the Chiefs do to be number 1 on your list? And then I remembered that it's Patrick Mahomes.
Hold on, I got you. You did.
There's that. But it's all. But I have to say too, also to their credit as well. Sans the Denver game, of course, no one played. They have played much better as a team the last couple of weeks prior to the playoffs. So they're actually playing their best football right now going in with the starting unit. So to me, that's what, because remember, they were not number 1 for a while on my list.
I mean,
so
are they really playing that good of football?
Well, they dominated Pittsburgh on week 17.
No, but you said you like Buffalo because they can win an ugly game. That's what the Chiefs have done all year. They games and they win them.
They destroyed Buffalo. Oh, that's right. Destroyed Pittsburgh without Chris Jones. On top of that, too, also
we talked about a Pittsburgh problem though in this show earlier in the show.
I'll give you the Steelers win. That is the Chiefs. That's probably their best. That's probably their best win on their schedule.
Right. They played well
all year. Last that 8-point win over Houston, 14 over Cleveland. The 2-point lucky doink over the Chargers.
Their best win is still probably week 1 against Baltimore.
I mean, overall, yeah, probably,
Correct.
but virtue of.
But their best win in their last since week 12, which they went since the Buffalo loss, like a 3-point win against Carolina, a 2-point win against Vegas, a 2-point win against the Chargers, 14 against Cleveland. Like, sure, on paper the offense looks like it's playing better, but I mean, they're not doing anything that says from a statistical standpoint that they're like clicking on all cylinders. Like, there still feels like there's pieces that are missing.
If I knew the officials wouldn't be so heavy-handed with them, I probably take the field. But you have to bake. But here's the thing, though. You've seen this like the last couple of years. You got to bake that into also. The officials are gonna lean heavy towards Mahomes and company.
I mean,
just do that.
I mean, at that point, then that's an NFL problem. I'm talking.
Yeah, that's not where they sit in a power rank.
No, that's the problem. Because if you're going to say that, then the fact that any of us on this show had the Kansas City Chiefs outside of number 1 all season means we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. Let's be let's stop the bullshit. Because they got bailed out on a couple games this year because of penalties that don't exist to any other of the 30 NFL teams. But what I'm saying is the offense looks better, and I'm not disagreeing that the first team offense does look better than it did in the middle half of the season. Because the first 2 weeks of the season, the offense looked just fine against Baltimore and Cincinnati.
Right.
They found a way to win games that they were behind in. They survived. They got to 2-0. Then the schedule opened up, and then, of course, the loss to Buffalo that offense did not look good in.
Yeah.
And the thing is since that game, the piece that they've added is Isaiah Pacheco coming off of injured reserve and Hollywood Brown. I'm sorry, Hollywood Brown does not move the that much for me.
I can see that.
Now, if you're gonna sell me, it's they're using Xavier Worthy in a different way.
Well, that's just it. Hollywood Brown was just an example. Like Hollywood Brown. First of all, your 4 snaps, Hollywood Brown caught 4 passes on 7 targets in that game, and was the team's 3rd leading receiver. But the big thing for me was Xavier Worthy was the 2nd leading receiver in that game. And what's surprising is Travis Kelce isn't the presumable one every week. He's just not. They're using him in spots and things like that, and obviously they're gonna try to heave it at him when they can. But I think the emergence of Xavier Worthy and kind of the gadget possibilities with him. I know Andy Reid likes to have fun sometimes with those things. I think there's the speed of Hollywood Brown with the speed of Xavier Worthy, with the effectiveness of Travis Kelce, with a healthy Pacheco. I think it's a convenient time for that to all come healthy because you don't really know what Andy Reid's going to do with all of them on the field. And he hasn't had to show anyone at this point. So I think that kind of element of surprise from Andy's also another piece.
No, and then that I get that, but I guess I'm not sold on their run game.
Well, and like I said, I think I probably would shift the Chiefs. I don't know where my Lions, Chiefs, Eagles are. I kind of want the Lions at 3 just to sell my last point, but I just think the Chiefs belong in that top echelon. I don't.
Yeah, I don't see them as a 1. I don't think.
I get that.
They haven't convinced me as a 1 since about week 3 of the season. But when I said, "Hey guys, send me your list," I knew where the EJ was going to have them. EJ having the Chiefs at 1 going into the playoffs was the least shocking thing of any of our picks.
I would agree with that assessment.
Any other thoughts on the rankings?
So the Packers at 13 is because blank.
Ooh, yeah, I just noticed that. Shit.
Well, first off, your number 1 receiver dead. Your quarterback.
That happens every week.
Your quarterback may or may not have feeling in his hands. And honestly, if you look over the Packers schedule, and when I'm making my list, and I looked at, I was going to have them in my 11 to 14 anyway. But when you look over the closing portion of this season, lost to the Bears, lost to the Vikings. Oh, cool. You beat the Saints really big. And then you beat the Seahawks, who aren't good. You lost to the Lions. You beat the Dolphins, who stink. You beat the Niners, who stink. You beat the Bears, who stink. Then you go back to a loss to the Lions. And wait, holy crap! I'm through the halfway point of the season. Now I'm at a close win over the Jaguars, a close win over the Texans, win over the Cardinals. Like, the Packers haven't beaten anybody.
That's very true.
Like the teams that they have lost to, their 6 losses are 5 good teams in the Chicago Bears.
And Jim, to your point, you noticed this year too, when I made my whole like proclamation back week 4 or week 3 was with the Packers, every week since then I've kind of backed off little by little for that same reason. You know what I mean? They're not playing anybody. And in the games they're winning against bad teams, they're barely winning them. You know what I mean?
So what you're telling me is the 2024 Green Bay Packers are the 2024 Texas Longhorns.
Kind of.
Yeah. That's a great analogy. Yes.
The Packers' best win that I'm looking at on their schedule came game 5, a 24-19 win over the Rams.
Texas A&M.
You know what I mean? Like, so you have a team that, you know, is a paper champion to begin with, and then you take away one of their best weapons and possibly their quarterback. Nope, sorry, bud. Dead in the water. Have fun. Here's your consolation prize.
And it's not like they didn't have opportunities to change the narrative because they had some games to prove themselves against the Vikings, loss. You know, against other teams that, you know, Detroit, loss. So, yeah, this is why. And you notice, as I said, Jim, I every week I start backing off on that because, like, maybe not. So
is that so? I guess let me ask this question then, and then we can wrap up the Packers talk here. Is that a Matt LaFleur problem, or is that a we need to go get a number one wide receiver?
Here's the thing: like I brought up the Todd Bowles, I brought up Mike Tomlin. Matt LaFleur is 3-4, soon to be 3-5 in postseason play. Okay, like again, regular season's cool. You had one losing season in 7 years, but you're now going to be 3-5 in the postseason, and you know he won't get fired.
No,
but you're going to go into next season with a hot seat on your hands.
You also spent all that money. You also spent money on bringing Josh Jacobs in and cutting AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones, and like Josh Jacobs isn't having any better of a season than Aaron Jones is.
Here's the deal. Another reason that the hot seat's going to get hotter there. Minnesota Vikings are on an upward trajectory. The Detroit Lions, you know, let's revisit this in a month, potentially sitting on top of the NFL. They're at least sitting on top of the division for 2 years in a row. And the Chicago Bears, depending what they do on the coaching front, could be at least on an upswing, especially if one of the heavy names being rumored around there, Pete Carroll. Like the field in your division is not going to get easier. The calls are going to get louder for Matt LaFleur.
Right, but I don't think I'll sell my stock on the Packers. I think overall, there's also timing too. Also with this,
of course you won't. You have your fence sitting and your green toes. They're
a good team. They are who we thought they'd be. They're a 11-win team.
But you know, here's the deal: the fact that, and Sean made the point whenever we talked about Christian Watson getting hurt. Oh, their number one receiver went down. Their number one receiver this week.
Yeah, I've said it all year about the Packers. They don't have a number one wide receiver.
They don't.
No, they don't.
They have 4 number twos. They have 4 number twos. And to be honest, whenever Watson's out, which is every 2 out of every 3 weeks, we see an emergence of one of the other guys, and you get to see. And Romeo Doubs, to me, is pound for pound the most talented receiver they have. I think he has the best hands of the 4. I think he runs a great deep ball. But he can be he's more versatile in his ability to go over the middle and do a deep ball. I think he's their best receiver, and he gets utilized more when Christian Watson's not playing. So I think that's a detriment to my squad. Obviously, if he does super well, it means my guys aren't doing their job. But he's also got a heck of a battle in front of him this week. That's for sure.
So if you're the Packers, are you saying, okay, we lose to Philadelphia, we're in the Tyreek Hill?
I'm just gonna say that. T.
Higgins.
Tyreek Hill doesn't want to play in that weather.
No, I think Tyreek Hill is going to the Chargers, but that's neither here nor there. We'll talk about that in an offseason episode.
Oh my God.
Jared
But I think like if you're the Packers, like you have to go get a number one. Like at this point, if you're telling me Jordan Love is the quarterback of this team moving forward, and you're not in the we might make a change at quarterback.
Well, and I think if the Packers go out early, they might. If the Packers go out early in the playoffs and are kind of at that like top draft spot of the playoff teams, like they may use some capital. They're not a team that typically does it, historically, but there's going to be some wide receiver talent in that like 10 to 15 rate. You might see him move up a few spots to find one, but I don't. I think it'll be kind of wait and see who's available and who's not signed. But it's definitely a focal point for them. It has to be.
Yeah, absolutely.